Okay, so let's see. Got it. All right, I'm going to ask people to mute just because papers are moving and there's just sounds. And I love hearing people's voices, and there'll be times for that too, for sure. Boundaries. Okay. Such a big topic in 1 hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to touch on some things. And mostly it'll be like a little bit of an appetizer plate for the training that's coming up in Slovenia that, we're all that I'm going to be one of the trainers at. Um, what about boundaries interests you? There's a reason you chose to come today, something that is alive, as we say in nonviolent communication a lot. But what is it that draws you here? That about boundaries. Peter, you said something before. What was it that what do you do when the boundaries are not working?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else? Just to begin, how people settle into the space here. How about you, Elka? I want you to notice that we can see each other. We're all real people here, and you know, and you most of what we communicate is nonverbal. We feel before we think. And so, when Elka, if I may, when you went, hmm, I could see that you were pondering something. So that's why I moved to you. But this is one of the things that online work can really provide is to see so much of the communication that we have and practice it in with so many people here, what we see and in a sense reading one another in the nonverbal aspects of communication. Anyway, long story. Um, Elka, what is it that moves you to be here today?
Let's see. Well, I think a lot about boundaries, and I do a little bit of teaching about nature and boundaries and how nature kind of shows us how boundaries can protect and help things grow. So I'm always interested to hear other people's way of teaching and navigating all that wonderful stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so to add to your ways of practices around and understandings around
Yeah,
boundaries.
and language around it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and help with what you contribute in the world too.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Birgitte, who is with you? May I ask?
That's my husband, Peter.
Peter, you mentioned that. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
So what is there something that moves you to be here today about boundaries that we might explore?
Um, yeah, of course there is, but I have a hard time putting the words to it. I mean, one part that moved us to be here is that we are going to be going to SAYIT, and Peter is new to NVC. So it was a good chance for him to meet you. I know you're going to be there, and Peter also going to be there. So I basically invited Peter also to start to get a feeling of what is this NVC world.
All right.
And about the boundaries, not too long ago, I saw a posting, and I can't remember anywhere where it was, but there was somebody claiming that if you're strong in yourself, you don't need boundaries, or something in that line. That got me curious. Like, if you are centered, you don't need boundaries. Or if you are strong with your needs, you don't need boundaries. I can't remember exactly the wording. So basically, I was just curious about this, the headline that you had, like, how, can we rethink what boundaries is? So I'm basically just completely curious.
All right. Well, that's a lot right there, and we can do. Let's explore it. And I'll tell you, my entry into nonviolent communication. It's a beautiful linguistic, discipline that, well, it's a whole self-discipline, but it's all, a lot of the focus is on the languaging we use. And as I was learning it, and my wife Judith, who will also be at the training, we would, we learned we live in in a community, an intentional community, and lots of boundaries or lots of relationships where things come up for us because we're living just like family. We're not family, but we're like family. You know, we've been living there for 35 years now. And um, when people live close together, it brings up stuff. And a lot of what it brings up is old stuff. I mean, who here um, has someone in their life that love them and say they love them and has also crossed your boundaries? Has anybody ever had that experience? Yeah, we all have. Um, and so our needs for safety and belonging and care and integrity, these are the words we use to describe the life that we call needs. These things, we create strategies to safeguard those sacred needs. And then we practice and practice and practice them till they become embodied and a part of who we are. So changing the language around them, learning language is great, but I struggled with, learning this incredible language, but living it. I mean, my wife and I, we would learn this together. And eventually we started teaching together, and we go and we teach for, a 2-hour class, and we come home and fight for 2 hours more together because we had our histories in us. And so as I continued to learn, I would, how do I move from here to here? Because that's the work. You know, I when I was first learning, would go into free sessions in a local prison with a group of inmates, and so I would go in with a team, and we would sit with them, and in a circle, and um, there was an elderly woman there, Lucretia. I love to tell the story because it is, to me, the essence of what NBC is. And she didn't say much. And I just remember at the end of one session, one of the inmates was like, I don't want to be violent anymore. And there's so much here to learn. How do I do this? And she said, he said, don't worry. She's 80 years old. She's gone now, but she was 80 years old at the time, and or in her 80s. And she said, um, don't worry. If it comes from the heart, there's never any waste. That's it. And to be truly in our hearts, you know, it's sometimes it's hard to discern because our head is always working a lot of time for most of us. So I like to learn nonviolent communication from the body up. What's going on in the sensation and the feeling in our bodies? And that becomes the foundation because the body doesn't lie, and the body contains the sum total of our histories. And you can't lose your history. You can learn through it, though. Yes, Elka, up, you're muted.
It seems to me that sometimes the body does lie because sometimes the body is reacting out of fear and out of bad programming. So we might be responding to something completely, you know, what I'm trying to say? Like
I
sometimes,
do. I do.
and sometimes the opposite happens too, where we think we can trust and our body feels safe when actually we should have more defenses up. So I struggle with that thing about the body doesn't lie.
Yeah, I hear you. The body does what it does what it has practiced. You know, how we learn everything is through practice, repetition, recurrence, including how we think about things too. Um, so if we move to sensation in the body, and the, let me give you an example and connect it to boundaries, okay? Versus just talking about it. Everybody take a moment and think about a difficult conversation that you have with someone that's kind of alive. You know, it still has some juice to it, right? And Elka, can I ask you a question? And feel free to decline everybody, feel free to decline any questions I have. Sometimes I just call on people. You're in choice here, and we really want to just honor that, especially when we start talking about the body, because when we go there, it's very direct. So when you think about that difficult conversation, what goes on in your body, Elka? May I ask?
Um, Tightness in the chest and unease in the belly.
Yeah. So these are historical patterns. These is something that is not part of the original equipment of the tightening these are strategies, at least how I understand them. And how we think about them, for example, if someone comes to me and they cross a boundary, like in these conversations that are difficult, there's some boundary crossing. And when that happens, we contract, or there's something that feels like it's uncomfortable. And so we contract. And if we're unconscious about this, if we're not listening inward, we react. But if we go to the body and listen with empathy, that's a different thing. And so, so if you imagine that conversation again, Elka, and where do you notice like the epicenter of what's going on in your body? Did you say around your heart?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is your body talking to you. A lot of times when it gets uncomfortable, we just kind of we start talking and protecting ourselves and going through the things that we've learned to do that attach to that strategy. How would it be right now as you feel that tightness in your heart a little
I,
bit?
I, d- I don't right now.
Well, just for that one example again,
Hmm.
kind of imagine.
Hmm.
The body doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined, first of all.
Hmm.
That's a somatic principle. So if you imagine that argument,
It wasn't really an argument, but yeah, I I don't argue very much, so it's hard to come up with something
how
that,
about this? How
yeah.
about this? Imagine you're on the street and you're over there, and and a stranger is walking up to you or walking towards you, right? So let's say I'm 20 feet away. So okay, use your imagination, okay? And then I slowly am walking towards you. Uh, When you feel that, some that I'm too close, say stop, okay? So now I'm 10 feet away, and you don't know who I am. I'm unknown presence. Now I'm just a few feet away.
And you're coming closer?
Yes.
Okay. All right, stop.
Okay. What in your body tells you what goes on in your body?
Just tension.
Where?
Uh, uh, I think it's both in the heart and in the stomach.
Okay. So put your attention to your heart for a minute.
Hmm.
And again, you're all in choice on this one, okay, Elka? And ask, your heart's talking to you right there. And so you turn to your heart with a not knowing, but a care, and ask your heart, I can see you're telling me something here. I'd love to understand what it is. And would you like to share that with me? And then just await the first thought, if any comes.
Um, just maybe dangerous.
So your heart just spoke to you, and just take a moment and say thank you. Because you asked a question, it responded, just being gracious. And then ask it if it has anything else it wants to tell you.
Hmm. Um, it's really hard. I don't know. Sorry, I'm too in my head. It's hard to.
That's okay. It's just even good to notice that you're too in your head right there, like you say, because right now the work is listening in, and it's
Hmm.
hard to separate. In fact, you can't honestly separate it, but you can pulse between it a bit
Hmm.
so that you can give your heart the space to offer its wisdom. And this is something a lot of us we don't do so well, even though we think we are. And that's not a criticism of you. That's just, I'm saying, me too, that the body has a sensations and there's original strategies. And how you can change the strategies, which is what we're here to do, is to change to more into who build our become who we want to be now. And the unconscious parts of ourselves, we want to not rule us, but to utilize. Some of these strategies are really good and important, but if they're just unconscious all the time, or then they start to rule us. So it's really this is a bit of self-mastery that we're really working with. So the body is just sensation. How you interpret it is another thing. So when I say the body doesn't lie, the body's going to do what it does. And how we interpret it, if we have, to separate that inner observation from our judgments and thoughts and all that, that's a lot of the work. Um, so yeah, Meta.
Yeah. You said something before that most of the time we forget to stop and to pause and to listen to our heart. And I do have a feeling that if I would pause and stop, that's actually the only thing I would be doing in all the time. Like I can sense that there is so much time when my heart is trying to communicate with me, and I do take time, like intentionally, to listen to it in the mornings, in the evenings, and so on. But otherwise, if I responded every single time, then I can just do that.
Is there a question there?
Yeah, it's not possible. I
What,
mean, how
to listen
to
to your heart all the time?
all the time? Yeah. At
No.
least I don't know how that could be possible.
I'm not suggesting you listen to your heart all the time. I just suggest that you listen to it when it's really wanting you to hear something. And well, you know it wants you to hear something when it starts to contract or it starts to feel painful. Then you go, oh, are you trying to tell me something? Let me hear. And first thought, there's a wisdom in that. Same thing with as Elka was speaking of our belly. You know, what's going on there? It tightens. It's trying to, it has something to say.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like living in a community. You don't want to go listen to everybody all the time. You choose, and you choose. You know, there's an intelligence all through you. So your head, you know, often our heads are overworking because most of us, our hearts were not honored, or our intuition would get us in trouble, and it would really get in the way of our own safety. So we learn to hide it. We contract around it so that it's protected. But we also lose some contact with those places. And we can't just open those places up in us because those strategies are there out of love. That's powerful. To try to fight those places open, it's almost like you have to love them open. You have to when they say something, you don't judge it, you listen, and you say thank you. It's just how you would work with your partner or anyone out there. I'm wondering if I didn't really plan to go this route, but I'm going this route, and I'm fine with it. But I want to make sure I'm being understood. Um, uh, Veronia, I'm wondering how it is, what you're noticing for yourself, or if you have any question.
No, for me, it's very interesting to find out all of this and how important the body is and to listen to my heart because most of the time I'm not. And the comparison to the community made so much sense for me at least. So going towards this road, it's very, very appreciated for me. So feel free to take any route you think it's good for us because we learn. At least I learn a lot from your examples.
Thank you. Good. I'm glad.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, generally, if one person walks away with something, that's like really great, but hopefully more. So the idea is this. If I came to you, my historical patterns, and I go again, this is a corner of NVC I like to feed. Um, it's going to in the training, there's going to be a variety of ways to learn nonviolent communication. I happen to work in a somatic approach because I find that the NVC learning community, it really fits. Because if, for example, my historical pattern was like this. I was very shy as a kid. I protected my heart. I was very sensitive. So that as a young boy was not really respected or honored or appreciated. So I learned to do this. And if I came to this, if I just as unconscious and I came to class and I just said, hi everybody, I'm feeling very relaxed today. I hope you are too. And so I'd like to talk about work with you on nonviolent communication. Now notice how it is when my body is like this, how you feel. And then I go like this. Let's just go. I'll take a deep breath. I'll integrate. Now, when I change, you change. This is how humans communicate. This is below the words. Hmm. Yeah, I'm feeling tender at the moment. For various reasons, including just being here and being listened to. But last night in in my class, one of my students who's been working with me now for a couple of years in this work, he keeps going, it keeps revealing who he is, who he is. He said, after the years of being so strong, I'm finding the courage to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is really underrated. And when we have boundaries that we think are walls, just like the contraction, the walls around our heart, it keeps it safe, but we also lose touch with it. Walls that are around us keeps us safe, but we lose touch with those around us. And connection is where we have a chance to connection is what feeds us, keeps us alive, exchange of energy. So the idea that boundaries are really more like shock absorbers. They're choice makers. When I walked up to you before and I touched your boundary and you said stop, that's not a wall. That's that is a space, a perimeter that gives you information if you pay attention to it. I'm wondering, Meta, does that make sense? Because I saw you question.
At one point, I stopped listening to you because when you said that's a shock absorber, I was like, oh, well, that's a beautiful way to think of boundary. If that's a shock absorber, then everything is okay. I can live with that.
There you go.
Yeah, that wording works for me very well. Shock absorber.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, so I would like to share a practice that we'll do um, in depth. First of all, this part about the contraction, we will do in depth, but slowly and carefully in a safe place together where there's choice for you as far as because you have to self-regulate. What's too much? What's just right? What's not enough? You know, that is part of the boundary thing, is to help you self-regulate. It gives you information when you connect to your perimeter. Okay. So, but I'll say this as a prelude that what you're protecting is something precious. These strategies, all strategies in this work we call nonviolent communication, are in service of needs. Needs are words we use to describe life, which is infinite. It's indescribable. Words point us there, but we have to use our whole selves to understand them. And since they're life, there's so much about what we call needs that we don't know. They, in my world, are actually our teachers. So and so I'm going to share a practice that you can practice. that shows that. Um, to to get to know. Okay, when in your lives, in your relationship, what is, first question is like, what do you really care about? Got to answer that one for yourself. Sometimes that's not easy. What really matters to you? And then, what's one quality, just one, that you would love to cultivate in your life? Just one quality that would really help you be more alive, more of a contribution to into yourself, to those around you, to the world. One quality, one word. How about you, Joan? Hi, Joan.
Uh, vulnerability.
Vulnerability. How about you, Veronia?
I was thinking truthfulness, authenticity.
So just one word. So,
Authenticity.
okay. How about you, Peter?
I'm thinking honesty.
Um, other Peter?
Fun.
Fun. So I want to just differentiate. It's a good word. If fun was the 10th floor of a building and you took the elevator down to the ground, what is the ground level of fun for you?
The ground level would be zero. That's my technical mind speaking. That's zero.
Technically. Okay. Okay. Um, if you were to distill what it is about fun that you love, what would it be?
Easiness.
Ease. Okay, ease. See, fun is a little bit more of a strategy to get to ease versus a state of being. Does that make sense in your logical mind? Technical mind?
Completely.
Huh?
Not completely.
Okay. Well, it's okay to have some questions there, okay, for today. But let's go with ease, just for now. Okay. How about you, Birgit?
Um, I would have to go with love.
Okay, love. Everybody come up with your word. We have just limited time, so we can't really go all the way around. But when just to help Peter with that understanding, needs are like what I said, that the life that flows through us, through nature and the world. And the life, our deep needs, how we how we take care of our needs, how we answer to them, are our strategies. And a big part of this work is learning to differentiate between the two. Ice cream. I love ice cream. That's a strategy for me for maybe joy or excitement or the things we call needs. All right. It's a little bit about that. But as a state of being, I'm going to suggest a word because everybody said something different. And just for the sake of this work, I'm going to suggest kindness. So here's the practice. And again, we're just going to touch on it because of time. But this practice I find can be never ending because if needs describe our words to describe something sacred like life, then that is something that we can always be learning for the rest of our lives. And so head. So, and I really do invite those of you who do not have your screens on to turn them on. Not necessary, but that way I can see you and I can help. But I'll coach you through the practice. So it's shape, unify, resource, field. SURF. SURF. That's acronym. Shape. Head above heart above belly. This vertical line. I invite you to sit in a vertical line. It's really a lovely thing when your head and your heart and your belly are on the same line, thinking, feeling, intuiting, feet on the ground, connect to the earth. Soften your eyes. Let your tongue rest on the floor of your mouth. You know, the weight that you got on your shoulders from all the things you should be doing and you have to do. Try this. Try this metta. Take that weight, pick it up, and put it down next to you. Everybody do that for a second. You can pick it up when we're done. It's probably important choice. Just put it down. Thank you. And unclench your sit bone, your sphincter muscle. You can imagine you have a dinosaur tail and sit on it and relax. Feel your sit bone on your seat, feet on the ground. Appreciate the earth, this mutual relationship we have with the earth. That's the shape. S. U, unify. Take a deep breath in. Go like this. Go. And you're all muted anyway, so make a sound. Okay, I hope you're making a sound there. Go. Notice how it feels. This is to relax your system. The more relaxed you are, the more aware you can be. The more relaxed you are, the more integrated you can be. Connects. That's the U. SUR, resource. So the resource is the need. So the need, I'm going to choose one of them on our needs list, just so we have one. I'm going to suggest kindness. So this is an empathic question to yourself, meaning you don't have the answer. It's more about connection. So ask yourself, ask your whole self, your body, how would it feel right now if I had just a little bit more of that feeling, that sense of kindness that I love? How would that feel? Ask yourself. And let's see what comes. Let your body answer. And notice. How would it feel if I had a little bit more kindness? What would that feel like? That quality of kindness. We're not attaching it to anybody, just the quality. And when you ask yourself that, Voronya, may I ask you, what do you notice inside?
A warmth within the heart.
Mhm. Anything else?
Easiness.
Hmm.
And all my body is relaxed. And a bit of enthusiasm within the heart. It's difficult to explain how I can feel it, but it's there.
So I want to invite you to the idea that this is the shape of kindness. This is your body sharing with you. And as it does, it's also for example, there's maybe the contraction around the heart opened up a little bit, and with that, life and blood and everything moves. Maybe that's a little bit of what you're feeling, possibly. What do you think?
Yes, but it's not like a contraction, it's more like an expansion.
No, what I'm saying is there's an expansion when you move to kindness that actually lets things move.
Oh,
That's, by the way, that's in my world as a somatic practitioner, that's healing. And there's a lot of information there that we will be exploring more. For now, it's just, I mean, in just a few seconds to say, wow, this changes, this moves, what's going on there? And there's a history and a whole bunch of stuff going on. And because we're in a safe place and we just asked for a little. And by the way, again, just appreciate any answers that come without judging it. Does anybody, when I ask about kindness, does anybody tighten up? Because sometimes we do. Okay. Sometimes there's a reaction to that, meaning like, I don't trust it, or no, if I've done that, then if I'm being kind, then I get slapped around or something. These things happen. And again, we listen to it with empathy, not judgment, in its own time. If it just does, if someone out there closes up, we don't try to just open them up. It's learning the patience and the rhythm and the time and the care. That's what our work is, and it begins within us. Meta, I noticed you got a little bit liquid there for a second. Would you like to share what was going on for you?
A little bit. My body relaxed, but I was flooded with sorrow and mourning because my heart was saying, I wish you were kinder, more time toward myself. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, like, why are you being so hard on yourself most of the time?
oh. So your heart was talking to you.
Yeah.
So how would it be right now just to turn to your heart and say, without judging whether it's right or wrong, just saying thank you. I can see you want to offer some suggestions. And how is that?
Grateful.
So grateful when you feel that gratefulness, your heart, what is happening there physically?
I'm feeling some trembling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, trembling.
Mm-hmm. Again, I just want to suggest that that's in somatic world, that's called streaming. It's movement. It's a healing thing. Does that how it feels to you, Meta?
Yeah, could be actually.
Hmm.
But I also feel that I have much more to cry out. So
Hmm. I would like to suggest thank you. Just again, when we go to the body, it's so direct, and we want to go really slow and with great honoring of it and care. It's like our friend. And I'm hoping, Elka, too, that in what we're doing here, just kind of to differentiate a little bit between how we think about what's going on and the actual sensation and movements and things going on in the body. Just, yeah, I don't try to, I'm not really trying to convince you. It's a long conversation. So let's consider it an inquiry together, because I do want to understand what you're saying too. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time, but if we're at the workshop, we can talk so much more together. Another concept, it's not the word concept, I forgot, a distinction in nonviolent communication is mourning and celebration. You know that when you're feeling that kindness, so again, everybody take a moment. Oh, I'm noticing, I'm remembering that we just did S-U-R. We haven't done F yet, field. We'll get there. So very quickly then. I mean, you could practice this slowly on your own. This is a daily practice. And I suggest using one need for a month. Imagine what kindness can teach you in the course of a month versus a word we use that we want to practice. So, Meta, may I ask you just a question? You ask yourself how to feel to have a little bit more kindness, you know, deep breath, and ask your body that, and everybody can do that. And that feeling that you have as you reconnect into your heart right there, like you were, there's some sadness there, is what you're saying?
It's a relief.
Yeah. But I'm looking at your face, and your face is kind of sad and
Yeah, it was actually, yes, please be more kind to me. It was really asking me like, yes, please show more kindness, show more kindness.
what actually what I see in your face is tenderness. That's just how it looks to me. And there's a sweetness and a sadness, mourning and celebration. When we touch those places in us, you know, when we contract around them and they begin to show themselves and we begin to connect gently, it's a reconnection. And we touch what we miss. So when someone goes away and we don't see them, we miss them, we're sad. When we reconnect, we celebrate. When someone leaves us or goes away and we miss them, what we are doing is loving what we miss. This is a form of gratitude. When we love what's present, that's also gratitude. That's celebration. Mourning and celebration, to feel them fully, is a form of gratitude. So I'd like to suggest, Meta and everyone, you know, when you feel what you're feeling there, you're really honoring life. And when you honor life in that way, in the presence of others, like here, you're honoring the circle. So thank you. So F, field. And let's begin. So this practice can take just a few seconds, or it can take as long as you want. But let's do it real quick. Shape, vertical line. Unify breath. Resource. Ask yourself, how would it feel to have a little bit more kindness? No, to ask yourself, let your body respond. Let your whole self respond. And breathe into that. And just fill yourself up a little bit with that. And now, as you fill yourself up a little more, bring your attention behind you, in front of you, to the left, right, above, and below, to the space around you, just a little bit out, like a foot or two, or half a meter. Okay? So that you're in like this sphere. Let's make it a sphere, a bubble that goes all around you. Can you imagine that? And is there anybody who cannot imagine that? Because I can help. Okay. Now, a little harder, but try it with your eyes open. And very slowly, let that bubble, fill it up with a little bit of that kindness if you can. At least just your attention. But the kindness is the extra. And very slowly let that bubble get bigger in all directions so that it gets so big it touches your screen in front of you. But it has to go that far behind you, left, right, above, and below. Okay? And sit in the middle of it. And with your eyes, if you can, imagining that with your eyes open, slowly let that bubble get a little bit bigger so that it opens and includes the monitor, so that we're all in this together here for a moment. And look at who you're with. And notice how that is for you. This is a practice for working with an empathic field. If you're wondering what empathy is or it feels like, so include each other in this sphere, this intention of kindness. And appreciate that, we're all real people here, even though it looks like a television. And then we all have the privilege of learning together. I firmly believe and experience that it's within community where we can really see ourselves and learn. And this is the beginning of what community can be, what it feels like. And we create a safe place to explore that together. So I really do look forward to our time together. I'm really thanking the organizers, um, Dimitri and Meta here today. I'm really excited to meet in person and do some of this work. I'm wondering in the last couple minutes if anybody has any questions for me. You have one, Veronia? Looks like it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should pose it. So my question is, you mentioned that we should do this exercise for 30 days, for 1 month at least,
Yeah.
kindness.
Yeah.
So we would ask ourselves how does kindness feel in our body and do this exercise.
hmm Yeah, I do, because it's like, what is kindness? It's in its most depthful way, or any of the needs. What is integrity, or ease, or love? Those qualities have so much to teach us, and by the practice, we can explore it as a whole self, mind, body practice, energetic too. And by including others in that intention, we can practice it even more. So, yes, sit by yourself and practice that. And when you're done, get up and try it through the day. It only takes 10 seconds to kind of do that. This is what I really recommend this one too, Veronia, and for everyone. When we're done with this session today, which is pretty much now, try this practice and go out and walk in nature and open this field of attention and include something in nature, a plant. And notice what happens. Because as I mentioned, empathy is listening to life and not just human. So what we are doing here is reclaiming these faculties in their fullness. And we have to go. I do too. You know, I'm hoping I can learn for the rest of my life and share it, you know, with you, share it with the younger ones and my grandchildren so they can take it farther. There's a lot to reclaim here as a human species and very important. That's why I'm here. That's what matters to me. So consider what matters to you, and let's bring it to the time together when we're training, and because that's the thing that will organize us. That's where our power is. But check out, go walk in nature, try that and see what happens. Try it with your, you know, just having a conversation and opening that field of attention and just listening to the other person. I'd love to hear what your experience is. All right. Gosh, anything you want to add before we go, Dimitri or Meta?
Yeah, David, I'm really grateful that you have shared all this for us. And I'm also touched, not sharing anything. I'm still cannot say much, but I would like to invite you to join us for SAYIT and to explore more.
Thank you.
I also wanted
thank
to
you.
say thank you, and yes, please keep sharing your wisdom with us.
Well, you're welcome, and it's so mutual. Thank you very much. Thank you all. I'd like to
And
take a moment. I do come from a couple traditions, one in the Aikido tradition, and I love that, you know, this is a training together. And I imagine us all in a circle. So unmute, and in your own way, again, you know, just however you'd like to be leaving. I would like to leave personally with just a thank you all. But let's all thank each other, and then we'll hope to meet again soon. So please unmute, hear your own voices, share whatever you like with each other for just a second or two, if you feel like it.
Thank you so much, David. It's really lovely. And yeah, I'll definitely be holding this.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing, Meta. Looking
Thank
forward.